It's about 10 a.m. right now, and I'm about to start a new sunshine state of mind painting. If you haven't seen my last vlog, you should maybe go take a look. It'll explain a bunch of things. So this morning I'm going to start a brand new painting. I hope to finish it within 2 days, like today and tomorrow. But you never know how these things go, you know. And I must admit that I'm feeling very procrastinating. Basically, I struggle with procrastination a lot, especially when I have to start a project that I care about. It feels like daunting, you know. So I call my procrastination the monster. So the monster is right here. And it's difficult to get past it and to start. I keep finding excuses to stretch out the prepping ritual, like cleaning this, making a cup of coffee, doing this, you know that little dance that you do with procrastination. This usually happens not only when I want to do something that I really like a project that I care about, but also when I know that it's going to be a little bit more difficult, technically, I mean. My solution for that usually is to break up the steps, especially the first couple steps, in tiny little bite size, and that's how I get going and get started. Usually works. I'll be working from reference images. I've picked a few. My first step is usually to kind of pop them in Photoshop. You can use GIMP as well if you don't have Photoshop. It's a free software. And I play around with saturation and contrast in Photoshop to help me get different versions of the reference photos that will help me draw and see lines and shadings and colors a little bit better, to make my life easier when I sketch and when I paint. Maybe I could show you a rough idea of how I do this.
Toutes les rancunes du passé sont oubliées dans l'âme. Laisse faire valoir, laisse faire voir. Mon cœur il se blesse, le monde est fou. Mon cœur se blesse, le monde est fou.
Okay, so I'm done Photoshop. All my images are prepped and ready to go. Let me show you what I've done to give you an idea of how I prepare for a painting. These are all the images for the same painting with different crops and different details and colors. This is one element that I put black and white with high contrast, like dark blacks and a lot of white. I cropped the face to have details, and I cropped it in 2 different ways with a lot of contrast, as you can see, to help me draw. Same thing with the hand. I cropped it very close and I did different types of contrast to help me draw. And there's going to be a balloon as well. And I did different saturations to help me get all the information I need for sketching. If you focus on drawing a lot and drawing from observation a lot, I don't think you need all this. I think that at some point you can get good enough and proficient enough to draw from imagination, but I'm not there yet. So these are the tools that I use to get to where I want to go. And I feel like it's also a way to learn more about shadows and lights and all those things. When you make things a lot bolder and less subtle, I find that's a good way for you to understand how things work a little bit faster. It's kind of a shortcut for me. And now I have to start the painting. All right, it is now 4:30. I prepped my canvas, and it's kind of a long process to prep everything because you have to put like thin-ish coats of gesso and make sure it's dry before putting the next coat. And I want this piece to be very sleek, like the surface to be very sleek, so I think I'll have to put many coats of gesso and then sand everything for it to be very smooth because I'm going to draw with graphite. And in the last piece that I made, the hands with the heart, it was a little bit tough to get straight lines because I would really feel the grain of the wood. So I'm trying right now to put more gesso and see if it would give a smoother surface. Today we talked about the monster of procrastination. I've talked about this a lot in my vlogs, and what I always say is that I try to get myself to the drawing table for at least a minute or for at least a little piece of a task, and usually that's enough to give me the motivation to go on because I get inertia, you know, and the hardest part is getting off the couch or out of a comfortable situation to get to a place where you have to be more active, because art is fun, but it's hard work. So it's fun, hard work, but it's work. It's not like watching a great movie with like a cup of tea, you know, so you have to I have to kind of always push that monster barrier, the mental barrier. It usually works. Today it didn't work, honestly. It works 90% of the times. It's rare that it doesn't work, maybe 10% of the time, but today it didn't work. The main reason is that when I came in the studio, I looked for a canvas. I couldn't find the proper ratio because this painting is going to be pretty elongated. I didn't have any of that in my stash. So I had to go out the house to get a canvas at the art supply store that really totally broke my flow that I was struggling to get. So when I came back, I started prepping the canvas, and right now things are just moving along so slowly, and I could force myself to draw and finish the sketch today, but I'm really not into it and I don't want to do it, and I'm okay with that. Like I said, 90% of the times when I do that one little task to get myself here, it just flows and it goes. But for that hack to really, really work, I have to also, on the flip side, give myself the right to say, well, no, I'm not feeling it for whatever reason. I'm sad or mad or blah or whatever. And to say, okay, I'm not doing it. That's how tomorrow I can do it again and be like, okay, just do this one step and see how it goes, you know. If this was a commission, obviously, when you have a client and a deadline, it's easier to motivate yourself and to be like, you just gotta do it. But for personal projects, it's kind of another set of rules. But I'm just saying this because I used to be really hard on myself, and if I didn't do things perfectly the way I was supposed to or complete it in one go, I would kind of be very critical and judgmental, and that made me feel bad and guilty and want to quit. And then I had a hard time coming back to it after because of all those feelings, you know. And since I've started to giving myself a pass a lot more and trying to just make it less of a big deal and just break it down to very small chewable steps, I've had a really high successful rate of completing paintings and starting new projects and getting things done. So today was not all wasted. I decided what image I was gonna paint. I kind of put together reference images. I went to buy a canvas and I prepped it. The next step, tomorrow, I'm going to sketch a vat painting and start putting colors down, which is gonna be exciting. So I'll see you in a jiff. for you. But know that in that transition, there was a Syndia that made herself a really nice cup of tea and watched Netflix, cuddling with her pup.
Je suis un androïde guidé par mes fils au langage insolite, aux manières malhabiles. J'ai subi l'inversion de mon pôle magnétique.
I just want to take a minute to show you where I'm at and why I'm doing these things. As you saw, I made a grid for this painting just because I want to have good accuracy in my sketch. And a grid is a great tool to have really good accuracy. At some point when I'm more comfortable in this painting series, I'd like to be able to sketch more freely without the use of a grid. But right now, as I'm getting my footing, I'm choosing to use a grid. So when you're creating a grid, it's really important that the ratio, it matches the final format perfectly. If you want to use a grid with measurement, there's another way to do a grid that is as effective without measurement. But for now, I used 1 centimeter for 1 inch. So it's giving me a 12 by 24 inch final piece. The reason I'm doing this on paper is because I want to sketch on paper, then transfer my sketch on my canvas that is all prepped, gessoed, and sanded. I've said this before, but I like to have a sketch separately from my canvas just because it allows for more flexibility. If I change things on the canvas as I go and I have to kind of erase bits or paint over some bits, then I lose my sketch. And if I have the sketch on a separate piece of paper, I have a lot more flexibility. I could kind of like scrap the painting if I really don't like where it's going and retransfer the drawing without having to redraw everything, because drawing takes a long time for me, a lot more time in a way than painting or shading in. And one thing that I did on the grid is put down numbers like this, so that when I try to draw, let's say, the hand, I know that it's 13 and 4. So I would go 4 and 13 and be like, okay, this is where the hand starts, and follow along. I know that a lot of you know how this works, but maybe some of you don't. Just in case that might be useful for you. Now I have to sketch this so that I can go on and transfer it after on the canvas.
Que c'est beau, la précision avec laquelle elle rentre dans ma peau, dans mes os jusqu'au centre. La veuve noire injecte son venin.
I'm done with the sketch and I'm ready to transfer my drawing onto the canvas. I'm using a wood panel. Usually I would use transfer paper. If you don't know what transfer paper is, it's basically a roll of paper that you can cut to the size you want, that has some kind of coating on it, so that when you press or go over it, it will imprint whatever you put under. Kind of like carbon paper. I don't have transfer paper right now, but I'll use another method that works just as well. Let me show you. I found a nice bright window in my house, and I've put my drawing on the other side. I'm just gonna go over everything with graphite, but like maybe an HB or 2B so that it's more pigmented. And I'm just gonna use the side of the pencil to go over everything, and then I'll be able to transfer it onto canvas. Here is the drawing side, and here is the graphite side. Now I'm ready to transfer.
De pulsations dans l'état, transmission encodée d'un cri désespéré. J'attends plus qu'on me réponde. Je me blottis parmi les ondes. Étranger en terre étrange, dans le chaos frénétique d'un monde ahurissant d'esprits neurotypiques. Je capte dans le torrent d'impulsions électriques des équations poétiques sur des arts géométriques. Je façonne mon univers de pulsations dans l'état, transmission encodée d'un cri désespéré. J'attends plus qu'on me réponde. Je me blottis parmi les ondes. Forêt, 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 hantée de monde d'acier, de verre et d'édifices. Tu m'étourdis, les yeux rivés sur toutes tes vis, sur tes malices. Calvaire, 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 le ciel lointain est recouvert. Orange et vert,
Painting completed. I'm really happy it's done. I'm really happy with the result as well. This painting was a struggle because I had problems with procrastination, motivation, but it doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy the process of making it and that I'm not more satisfied with the results. It's just like sometimes you deal with your state of mind, like your mood or whatever is happening in your life. You're less into it, but I pushed through and I feel like I achieved something that I really like. It took me longer than usual, but that doesn't matter. I love how childlike this painting is because of the balloon, obviously, but also the pose. To me, it's very calming and innocent in a way. On a technical side, the stripe of the dress were really long to make, but in a way very zen, just because if you get lost in the process of doing something very repetitive, it frees your mind in a way. I have to practice hands for sure because they're very difficult to draw, but I think I achieved a decent enough result. I didn't have too much problems with faces. I really like portraits. I chose to do a pop of yellow with the shoes and to give a lot of shading to the legs and arms, and obviously the balloon to give it a big pop of yellow as well. I kept the background white and I really like how it turns out and the contrast it gives with the black. I shaded the ground with graphite. Honestly, this is the only part that I'm not quite 100% sure about. Not that I dislike it, I'm just wondering if there would be maybe a better way to do it. I don't know if I would like to leave more white on the ground, or I'm actually not quite sure. But I'm at the stage where I feel very satisfied with the painting, and whatever little changes I'm gonna make, if any, I'll be able to know more in a few weeks probably. So I'm gonna let it simmer and see how it gels together. Overall, I like pretty much everything about it. Be sure to follow me on Instagram because I often post sneak peeks of the works in progress as I'm filming and doing the work during the week, let's say, that it takes me to do it. I will film Instagram stories and I will put some works in progress on my grid. So follow me at Syndia Montreal. Let me know what you think of this painting. I really want to know your feedback. I'll meet you in the comments and I will see you very soon.